Hey, have you ever felt invisible in a situation? You know, you go into a room filled with people, maybe it's a meeting or something like that, and you walk in, you don't know anybody, and nobody speaks to you. They're all kind of in their own friend group and they're chatting and so forth, and you don't know what to do, and you kind of look around and maybe there's a little food or something, and you go pick up a plate and you get something because you need something to do because you feel awkward, but you feel invisible in the room because no one is speaking to you. And that's a real thing for people, right? People really do feel invisible sometimes. Our little great nephew, Brooks, felt that this past week. He's only 5 years old, and our niece, Lauren, and her husband, Aaron, yes, we have two Aarons in our family, so sometimes we call him Aaron, but Lauren and Aaron played a little trick on Brooks. They decided they were going to say, we're going to do a magic trick and make him invisible. So they had him sit on a couch. They threw a big blanket over his head, and Aaron told him, okay, Brooks, say these words after me. 1, 2, 3, ABC, abracadabra. And Brooks was giggling the whole time, and he said the words, and he pulled the blanket off, and Aaron and Lauren immediately acted like Brooks was invisible, like he had just disappeared. And they were kind of freaking out, and Brooks is laughing and not believing he's invisible. So Aaron goes, okay, Brooks, if you're here, grab my hand. And Brooks reaches up and grabs his hand, and Aaron goes, okay, he's here, I can feel him. So then Lauren says, Brooks, if you're here, sit on the couch with me. And she sits on the couch and she says, let's take a picture. And she puts her arm around him. Aaron takes a photo, but when he shows the photo to Brooks, it's one they previously took where Lauren sat like this and no one was there. And Brooks's eyes got huge. Oh my goodness, you see, I'm really invisible. Then they did it again with the whole family. And Aaron and Brooks and Lauren, only this time again, he wasn't sitting there. And when he saw that second picture, he just started to melt down. It was too much for him. He started to cry and whimper. So Aaron very wisely decided we need to reverse this quickly. So he throws the blanket over his head, has him say the same words, 1, 2, 3, ABC, abracadabra. And Brooks kind of whimpers through it, because he's kind of choking up and tearing a little bit. They pull the blanket off and they all rejoice. He has reappeared. And they told him it was just a trick, that he had never really disappeared. But there are lots of people who feel invisible. There are people at school every day, with kids in high school and middle school who walk the halls and feels like nobody sees them. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody talks to them. They go to the locker by themselves. They go to lunch by themselves. They walk to and from class by themselves. Reminds me of the girl in the Breakfast Club, She was kind of the one that nobody knew. She was sort of the goth student in the group, and she was invisible. There are people who feel invisible at work. They go to work every day. Nobody talks to them. They sit by themselves 8, 9 hours in a day. They eat lunch by themselves or on breaks by themselves. Nobody ever speaks to them. They just do their job. There are people at church that feel like that every Sunday. They walk in, the greeter says hello, but when they get into the lobby, nobody speaks to them. They don't know what to do. They get some literature or maybe get a cup of coffee, and they stand there and wait for service to start, and they feel alone in a room full of people. There are even kids and families who feel that way. Maybe 1 or 2 kids in the family are really outgoing. They're really good at something. They're really good at academics or sports, and the other one, not so much. And as a result, they just kind of shrink back, and they feel invisible even in their own family. Here's a challenge this week for those of us who recognize that there are people who feel that way. What if we made it our intention to reach out to people who we see around us who seem like they feel invisible? When you go to church, you stand in the lobby and you look for the person who looks like they're standing by themselves, who doesn't have anybody to talk to, and you stick your hand out and you say your name and you get to know them, and you ask them some leading questions and you talk to them for a little bit. And then you look for them again next Sunday and you kind of invite them in. What if you have a teenagers in school and you say to your kid, hey, you know what, this week, what if you looked out for those kids in school who are sitting and having lunch by themselves, who walk to and from class by themselves, who seem to be like loners, like they're invisible? Why don't you reach out to them? Or maybe at work, you go, I'm going to really be intentional about this week. I'm going to look for the person at work who looks invisible, seems like they sit by themselves a lot. And certainly even in your own home, if you've got one of your kids who maybe shrinks back a little bit, what if you took time to say, let's spend some time together. Let's go do something you want to do this Saturday. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? and you just spend time with that kid, because the other kid gets a lot of attention anyway, but this one kid kind of shrinks back and is invisible even in their own family. You know, one of the names of God in the Bible is El Roi, believe it or not. It is the God who sees. Hagar gave him that name because she knew that God saw her. And when we recognize that God sees us, it's a reminder for us that we need to see other people. We need in love to reach out to those people who are kind of invisible and kind of maybe feel like they don't have any friends, don't have any connections. And we can be that connection for them. And then maybe we can help connect them to God if they need that connection as well. Let's go do that this week. What do you think? I think we can do that, don't you? I'll do it, you do it, and I'll see you next week. Keep walking with Jesus.